Module 1, Topic A, Exit Ticket Test Review Tour. This tour will help you to prepare for your Topic A Exit Ticket test. Before we get started, here's a really bad math joke for you to think about. Why did the math student eat his math exam? Try to think about the answer and stay tuned to this tour for the punchline, which will come at the end. Question 1. Mr. Hernandez decided to make crayon apple juice for a classroom birthday party. Crayon apple juice recipe says to mix 2 cups of cranberry juice with 2.5 cups of apple juice. Some student helpers decided to mix 6 cups of cranberry juice with 7.5 cups of apple juice. So here's that data organized in the table. Cups of cranberry juice X, 2 cups of apple juice Y. Here's the recipe. 2 cups cranberry, 2.5 cups apple. Here's what the students mixed. 6 cups cranberry, 7.5 cups apple. The question is, did the students make the juice in a way that cups of apple juice Y is proportional to cups of cranberry juice X? Explain. So think, what would it mean if the students mixed the juice so that cranberry was proportional to apple? And how can we decide if this table is showing a proportional relationship? To do that, we need to search for a constant. We need to look what is happening from X to Y in the first column and see how that compares what is happening X to Y in the second column. And so how do we determine if there is a constant in the table? So if you said we divide, you're correct, but it's important to think about in what order we divide. So what order are we going to divide to look for a constant? So the order in which we divide is y divided by x. And so for our first column, that would be 2 5/10 divided by 2. In our second column, it would be 7 5/10 divided by 2. So go ahead and solve these division problems, find out what the quotients are, and see how they compare. Now that we've solved the division problems, we can see that both of our answers are 1 25/100ths. So after dividing, what we've determined is that y is proportional to x because there is a constant. X times 1 25/100ths equals y. So the students did mix juice in a ratio that would make the juice look the same and taste the same as the original recipe. Question 2. Kayla made observations about the selling price of a new brand of coffee that sold in 3 different size bags. She recorded those observations in the following table. So here we have ounces of coffee X compared to price in dollars Y. A. Is the price proportional to the amount of coffee? Why or why not? It's like in problem 1, we need to determine if there is a constant in the table to see if X times some constant equals Y in each of the columns. Now go ahead and search for that constant. Do your division and see what answer you come up with for each of the 3 columns. Hopefully you divided in the order y divided by x. So you are solving 3 division problems in this order, and we came up with the fact that in each of these size bags of coffee, you're paying 35 cents per ounce. And so again, we do see that there is a constant in our table. So, like problem 1, we find that price is proportional to the amount, amount of coffee. So I fixed my answer. Price is proportional to the amount of coffee because there is a constant x times 35 hundredths or 35 cents equals y. Question 2b. Find the cost of purchasing 24 ounces of coffee. So go ahead and think about how you can use the constant that you found in part A to answer this question. Go ahead and try to answer it and compare your answer to the table in part A. See if you think it's a reasonable answer. So if we're thinking about this as continuing our table from part A, we have ounces, x, and we have 24 ounces. And we know that we'd have a constant 35 cents that would multiply times x to give us y. So I've started by multiplying 24 times 35 as if they were whole numbers, and I arrived at 840. Now I just remember I have 2 decimal place values, so I'm going to move my decimal place left 2 places for $8.40. So as my final answer, we have 24 ounces cost $8.40. Question 3. It says graph the table. So we have 6 coordinate pairs, x, y. Go ahead and plot those coordinate pairs on the coordinate plane and then connect them with a straight line segment. So after plotting our points and connecting them with straight line segments, does our graph form a straight line? Second, what other point must the graph intersect? So those are the 2 things we're thinking about as we answer this question. Does the graph show that y is proportional to x? Explain. The first part of your answer is yes or no. What do you think? So if you answered no, you're correct. But what's the because, or how do we explain that? And so it is no, it is not a straight line intersecting the origin. So it failed both of those tests. It's not a straight line and it doesn't intersect the origin. Question 4. Fill in the table with values so that y is proportional to x. Then graph your table. So we have table x is equal to 8 and y is equal to 2. So what is happening in our table? What is our constant going to be? So a question we're thinking about is x times what equals y. So think about that number. What is the constant? And then we go from there. So remember, we always can find our constant through dividing y divided by x. And so that would be 2 divided by 8. And so that we could express as a fraction in simplest form. We actually have x times 1/4 equals y. And so to multiply by 1/4 is really equivalent to dividing by 4, but a constant is a number that we always multiply by. And so we have a constant 4. Well, we have our constant 1/4. Then we need 2 more coordinate pairs. So what do you think? What coordinate pair must be on our graph for y to be proportional to x? So think about what point the graph must intersect. So if you said the point 0, 0, or the origin, you're correct. And so we put 0, 0, that still fits with our constant, because 0 times 1/4 equals 0. Okay? So now we have 2.0082. We need a third and final point. What would be if we start at 8? We've already used 8. What could be another x value that could work well or would be easy to use? Think about the x values that could be in our table. The x value that is greater than 8. So if you chose 12, then that would be an easy x value to use. So now we say 12 times 1/4, which is equivalent to 12 divided by 4. Find the y value. So 12 times 1/4 is 3. Now we're ready to graph the table. So go ahead and graph the table and connect your coordinate pairs with a straight line. So now you look at the graph that you created. Explain why your graph shows that y is proportional to x. So think of the two things the two elements of a graph that makes it show that y is proportional to x. So those two important elements are a straight line passing through the origin. So it shows y proportional to x because it is a straight line that intersects the origin. So you've made it this far waiting for the answer to the really terrible math joke. Why did the math student eat his math test? Because his teacher said it was a piece of cake. So I hope that you are feeling confident about the concepts in topic A, and you're going to find the test also a piece of cake.